Okay, as before, we'll still be doing percent increase, decrease, but this time a little bit wordier problems. So my suggestion when looking at word problems is always start at the end. Look for the question first, then look for the numbers, because if you know what the question is, oftentimes you know what kind of formula we're going to be setting it up in. Try to get that set up and then start reading the question to see if it all works out. The reason is when you read the words, that affects really directly into the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala. The math part of the brain's up in here, and we want to get that part working as soon as possible so that the emotional side of our brain doesn't block our thinking. So 27. Again, I'm not going to read it all until I get going. So I'm going to write 27. What do we got? Let's read that last sentence, round to the nearest tenth of percent. That's an instruction. Okay, back up a little bit more. Find the increase in carbon dioxide levels and the percent of increase. Percent of increase, all right. So I know new minus the old divided by the old, just like last time. So I'm going to be doing this, multiplying by 100. Remember, the top part gives me the amount of change, and the percent of change will be the result of this calculation. So now let's look at for numbers. Well, I see 1959, that's a time, 307 parts per million. That's looking like a number, and I see 391 parts per million. It's 2005, that's a time. So I see a new value and an old value. Which one is the new one? Well, the one in 2005. So the new always goes first. 391. The old value, the older one, was 307. And we're going to divide by the old value because the old is always in the basement. Okay. We could also think about this, that they told us that, well, if we read it, right? The U.S. Weather Bureau has a station in Mauna Loa in Hawaii that has measured carbon dioxide levels since 1959. At that time, there were 307 parts per million carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. 2005, the figure was 391 parts per million. Find the increase. So we know it's going to be an increase. That helps us know how to set this up. We've got to get a positive value, right? Okay, all that put together, 391 minus 307, that gives us 84 parts per million increase. Okay, so this part that's 84, that is our absolute change, or the amount of increase, right? And that's 84 parts per million, PPT. We finish the calculation, 84 divided by 307 times 100, and we get that that is going to be 27.4%. That's our relative change, or percent of change. Percent of increase, it's positive. Okay. So now let's try this process again. Let's take a look at 28. Again, we look at the end. This has two parts to the question. There's a little bit who lost the larger percent. Determine if they both lost the same percent. I've got to kind of do a little bit of reading. So sometimes it's hard. You got to read first. So but we know we've got an A part and a B part, so we'll come back to this. Anthony and his son, Johnny, are exercising more regularly, keeping track of their weight loss. Both Anthony and Johnny, they both lost 10 pounds. From this information alone, can you determine if they both lost the same percentage? Well, sort of up here, we don't have either the new or the old. We have the amount of the change that they lost 10 pounds. So we can't find the percentage with just that information because we don't know what the starting weight was. So no, can't find percent change. Not enough information. But B, they're going to give us some additional information. Suppose Anthony's starting weight is 190 pounds and Johnny's starting weight is 155, who lost a larger percent of their weight. Now, knowing that they lost 10 pounds, we'll come back up to 27, right? It's the result of this calculation. The amount of change has already taken the subtraction for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 10 pounds as the amount of increase or decrease, in this case, and divide by the old value, their old weight. So let's see where we're going to start. Anthony. He lost 10 pounds. That's a negative 10. He started at 190, and when we multiply that by 100, we'll get his percent change. For Johnny, he also lost 10 pounds, but he started at 155. Multiply that by 100, and we'll get a percent change. So for Anthony, you do the multiplication, we end up with 5.3%. That's the percent change. For Johnny, you do the math, negative 10 divided by 155 times 100, and you got that Johnny had a 6.5% change. So Johnny had the greater percent change. Johnny lost a larger percentage. So now we can answer that part. Okay, see how this all works, comes together, and this will help you with your online homework very nicely. 29, again, an A and a B part. So let's see what they, sometimes you just blow through and read the question. A company calls to notify you that the interest rate on your credit card will increase from 16 to 18%. Determine the number of percentage points of the increase rate, and then determine the percent increase of the rate. It seems a little confusing, but we're really just doing the same thing. When we've got two percentages as the numbers we're working with, we subtract them, and that gives us the amount of change, but then there's a percent of the percent change. Does that make sense? Not much, but we'll work with this. So what was the old value? It used to be 16%, and it's going to increase to 18. So what we're going to do is 18% subtract 16%. And again, we always divide by the old. Old is always in the bottom. And as we do the top part of the fraction, like this calculation, we get 2% over 16% times 100. And this part of the calculation so far, the 2%, that is the percentage points of change. So 2% or 2 points. Change went up by 2 points. Okay. We'll also use this when we get into mortgage loans. They talk about points being charged on a loan, and that's points are percentage. Okay. Now, if you take 2 divided by 16 times 100, you'll find that that 2 percentage point change is actually means that your interest that you're paying now is 12.5% more. That's an increase. Increase of 12.5%. Okay, so this was answering the A part, this answers the B part, and we've got it all taken care of.